This is the Ride1Up 700 series electric bike. It's an absolute unit of a bicycle with a fantastic set of features and a price tag you don't want to ignore. And what's really great is how it's kind of made my car obsolete. And where gas prices are at these days, that's a huge deal for me. The 700 series is a total beefcake. It features large 27.5 by 2.4 inch tires, which aren't the largest you'll find, but are definitely wider than your typical off-road bike. These tires, along with the hydraulic shocks, mean this bike feels smooth over a large variety of terrain. And as someone who usually rides a basic road bike, this guy made my usual routes feel night and day different. This bike includes a massive 48-volt battery powering a 750-watt motor, meaning it can last a long time. My personal e-bike only has a 250-watt motor, so this is a huge jump for me. In fact, I barely had to recharge this thing during my time testing it. Of course, the battery can be charged while connected to the bike, but you do have the option to take it off to charge elsewhere or keep it inside for safekeeping. However, I'm not a huge fan of its location being under the bike's frame. This makes removing it a tad more difficult to access compared to previous bikes I've used with the battery on top. The battery powers the bike's 5 levels of pedal assist. But when it's not on, the 700 series feels just like riding a traditional bike, with a 1x8 gear range. And you can change those gears by pressing the corresponding buttons on the Shimano trigger shifter with your index finger or thumb. But what's really exciting is that the bike has a throttle that you can activate on the handlebar's left-hand side. By pressing this button, the bike will propel you forward with no pedaling at all, and it will quickly accelerate up to around 21 miles an hour. The throttle uses about twice as much juice compared to the pedal assist, so take that into account when planning your longer trips. This option is perfect if you just finished an intense leg day session at the gym, or maybe a couple hours of ultimate frisbee, and pedaling home to any degree just feels like too much of a chore. I also found the throttle super useful when kicking off from a stop and wanting to get up to speed as quickly as possible. And it's a total game changer when it comes to hills and you're worried about how hard the first few seconds of pedaling will be before the cadence sensor kicks in and provides any assist. The 700 series comes in 2 colors, blue and the gray you see here, and with 2 different frame configurations, the ST and XR that I have. Changing up your color or frame won't affect the price tag, but it's definitely something you should consider when picking out a bike. An ST frame doesn't include this bar along the middle of the bike, so it allows you to mount it more easily since you can swing your foot through the opening. I noticed with my XR frame that, even though the bar does dip down, it still was in a position that was too high for me to comfortably bring my foot forward through. It's also worth noting though, that if I had the rack loaded up with stuff, swinging my leg up and behind it might not be an option. However, what I really liked about the XR is that it allowed me to more easily pick up and carry the bike around since I had that bar to use as a handle. And if I had a bike rack for my car, then this would allow me to secure it much more easily than an ST frame. Also, just as a side note, I think XR frame bikes just look cooler. The 700 series also comes with a number of accessories right out of the box. These include the previously mentioned rear rack, which has a weight limit of 50 pounds. It also features 3 elastic straps to help easily secure your luggage, but of course you can always clip more to it yourself. The bike also has both front and rear fenders, as well as a kickstand, which you wouldn't think would be a big deal, but you'd be surprised how many bikes don't come with a kickstand. You'll also find a front and rear light that install right onto the bike, so no worries about someone sliding off a portable version and stealing your stuff. And what's really cool about these lights is that you can control them using the bike's display unit. The color display unit is located on the left-hand side of the handlebars, just above the throttle. The plus and minus buttons control how much pedal assist you'd like. Holding down the plus button will turn the front and rear lights on, while also switching the display to a more nighttime friendly mode. Pressing the power button will cycle through some options for the lower left corner, including your max speed, average miles per hour, length of ride, and an odometer. To the right of that is your current pedal assist level. In the bottom right corner is your ride distance. Above that is a remaining battery indicator. The main numbers in the middle are your current speed. The top left section shows how much battery you're currently using. Holding down the minus button will activate a walk mode. Now, if you're ordering this bike online, I should point out this was the hardest bike I've ever put together. Most of the bikes I've received usually just require a couple extruding components, like the handlebars and pedals, to be screwed in place. Not this one. Pretty much every part of it needs to be attached or wired together. If you're not used to assembling a bike, then I would recommend bringing it to a shop and have someone with experience handle that. With that said, Ride1Up does have a YouTube video showing assembly instructions that I found very helpful, more so than the included paper instructions. And it'll show you how to screw and connect everything together, but if you're like me, your hands are still going to end up quite dirty. With that out of the way, the biggest drawback I experienced with the 700 series is its weight. This bike weighs 62 pounds, which is a lot for a bicycle. I go to the gym a lot, and I only say this to brag a little, but I'm pretty strong, and even I had trouble carrying this up to my apartment. Coming home after long sessions of exercising or playing some sports makes lugging this thing around a real hassle. I need to store my bike inside, so when you combine this with how large the bike is, I just can't see it fitting into my lifestyle. If you're in a similar situation as myself, then you should definitely consider all these variables. But if you're someone who can store their bike outside, doesn't have to carry it up a flight of stairs, or has a garage you can ride straight into, then this shouldn't be a problem. Let's talk about how much this all costs. Surprisingly, the 700 series retails for $1,700, which is pretty cheap for all the features you're getting. And if you start riding this instead of driving a car, then the gas savings alone will be significant. It's also worth noting that Ride1Up still sells their 500 series e-bikes, and those go for just under $1,500. Both models are pretty similar, but the 700 series has higher quality components. Some other trade-offs include a slightly less powerful battery that isn't as integrated into the frame, a less aesthetically pleasing display screen, and no rear light. However, the 500 series is also 7 pounds lighter, something to consider when making your purchasing decision. All this comes together into a really great package and a really powerful bike. In fact, I found myself using my car much less on some of my longer commutes. That 750 watt motor just lasts forever. If you're someone with a handful of miles you need to travel on a regular basis, then this should be perfect for you. It obviously doesn't have the same storage space of a vehicle, but if I'm just trying to get from point A to point B, then this bike has opened up a lot more destinations for me. Not only does the large battery allow for extended trips, but the use of the throttle really helps take a lot of the effort off of having to pedal at any point. So I can take a break while still traveling. And these large tires means I can take this bike off-road without having to worry about how difficult it'll feel. If you're hungry for even more e-bike information and footage, then check out our dedicated playlists and learn something. Thanks so much for watching.